Followed by Senator Boniface.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to witnesses. I have two questions. The first is a bit conceptual. I wonder if you see a contradiction or tension between the recent fashion for reshoring and, on the other hand, the expansion of preferences to least developed countries. I don't expect a lot of garment factories to reshore to North America, but you never know. And if enough incentives are given, subsidies, in other words, we could see that happening. Can you talk a bit about whether you see troubling trends in this regard? Either of you.
Yeah, I do have some thoughts about this, and I thank you for the question. And I don't know where it comes in, but there are tensions in my mind, specifically in the sense of where U.S. geopolitics is going in terms of isolating certain countries, right? Namely China, where a lot of these countries that benefit from the general preferences, tariff preferences, would have very, supply chains that would overlap with some of these countries, right? And there is the potential, I think, that this could be overly politicized, right, in the future. And that's why I talked about in my presentation the need for fairly clear guidelines on how a country is added to or taken off the list, because I do think there is the risk that pressure from countries like the United States or even other pressures might kind of flow into these programs, which are very much, that should not be, they should be separate, I think, in my view.
Did you want to add to that?
Really wouldn't have anything additional to add to this on that particular issue.
Well, if I could comment on your response and then ask the second question. I've just come back from D.C., where there's a lot of discussion about looking at the provenance of the ownership of companies in LDCs and targeting them because of ownership rather than domicile, if you know what I mean, right? So if a Chinese company is in Bangladesh, that company might seem to not be entitled to benefits that Bangladesh would otherwise be entitled to because of the Chinese ownership. So you may or may not want to comment on that, but I'll put it out there. The related question, and it feeds nicely into your point, Mr. Trew, is whether we should be concerned about rules of origin as well, particularly in these areas where LDCs are dominant in. Are there some accumulation rules that we should be worried about that might actually exclude some LDCs from benefiting from the preferential treatment? Either of you, please.
Go ahead.
You might know the situation with rules of origin a bit, but.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Senator. In terms of the ownership issue, I can tell you that a lot of the work that TFO Canada does, thanks to support from donors such as Global Affairs Canada, we do look at supporting SMEs that have, greater than 50% ownership in the country, and that's a way to make sure that the development impact is felt in the community, and that it's not just profits going back to another country. So the example that you gave is one where we do our best to make sure that the actual LEC, the small medium enterprise, is the one that benefits from the tariff treatment, and of course the support that we provide.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have
Okay,
that. Yeah.
that's fine.